Sunday morning, right? And were you...
No, I wasn't quite to Fort Island yet. I was at the ferry in the Navy Yard that goes over to Fort Island and brings the families who live there. This was Sunday morning.
So you didn't live on Fort Island?
Well, no, they transport the families back to the mainland from Fort Island so they could go to church. So that's where I was. And they had refueled the ferry. That's where it was when this whole thing started. And they had refueled the ferry, but it was wooden. Fuels were horrendous, diesel. And so I was there, and the warrant boatswain was there, and the motor mech was there. There were three of us. And so as soon as those fumes just got a little bit lighter, we could crank it up and go to Fort Island. You could see Fort Island where it was. It was Mary Point. If you've ever been out there, it was Mary Point Channel. The Mary Point Channel is where those Jap planes come in right over my head that morning and heading right straight for that wall of battleships. And I thought nothing of it because the Enterprise was coming in. That's the reason I was rushing back. Same reason, to meet my ship. Because I had to put things aboard that ship, and they would ship things back to me over on the beach. And so I was interested in getting there. And all of a sudden, I was just looking. I had planes were coming in over my head, and I wasn't paying any attention to them, really, because I'd been 5 years in naval aviation. But all of a sudden, I saw things dropping off of the planes. Now, that doesn't happen. So I just elevated my eyes a little bit, and I saw those big red meatballs. We call them meatballs, those big red Japanese flag. So that was enough to knock you off your feet, just realizing what the hell was happening. And I didn't any sooner just think, then Arizona went up in a big ball of flame.
Where were you standing when that happened?
Right at the same spot.
You were right at the ferry?
Where I saw them all coming in.
Oh.
That's the reason I told everybody. All they ever saw was a bunch of black smoke after the explosions. They saw a bunch of black smokes. Well, the breeze would come down off of the mountain. And there's all mountains back of us. So it would come down off the mountain and blow out towards the ocean. So then the black smoke was just rolling out towards the ocean. And that's when the Oklahoma went down, as far as she could go down. She ended up on her side. And the Nevada she damn near got out of the harbor, but she got hit and she was going to go down in the channel. So rather than go down in the channel and block the harbor, she turned off to the right and beached herself deliberately. So that's what happened to the Nevada.
Could you see all this happening from where you were?
Well, yeah, because there's nothing else in front of me. Wow. I'm just standing there watching it, and can't believe it. Then when the second wave come in, we had two waves that morning. When the second wave come in, it was going to probably be called a cleanup wave, I guess. So I found a little tree about 8 inches in diameter. That was the only thing was there, and an old trailer, just a trailer base, you know, with the wheels. That's the only thing was there, other than a wooden ferry boat, which is not going to stop anything. So probably 60 feet up on the hill there, a little low, there was that tree got about an 8-inch diameter. So I just got in behind the tree. Of course, I was big, more in diameter than the tree was, but I just kind of tried to keep my head there. But that second wave came in, and it was after something else. Because on the other side of that tree, probably, not very far, was a dry dock where the Pennsylvania was, and two destroyers up ahead of it. And so I got up there, and that was all, and I could look down, and there's Pennsylvania dry dock. And the 2 tin cans, after they'd been flew bombs, you couldn't even see them anymore, because they just turned them into loose metal. But I was afraid they'd drop something premature. They were coming in at about a 45-degree angle. So it wasn't speed, there was no speed to it. It was just like they were floating in about 45 degrees. And you could see them, they were so damn close. And you could see them in the cockpit, you could see them looking at us. I don't think I saw any of them laughing like some of these pictures. All I do was saw heads and faces, and I could see their nose and all that. They were that close. They were right over my head, and they were just coming down at that angle. And then they'd drop their bomb in the dry dock, and then they'd wiggle like this because of black smoke and get out of there.
And they didn't strafe you.
Huh?
They didn't strafe you or anything.
No, they did. Yeah, they did on one spot. We tried to get the ferry going, and I think that was, yeah, they were still there, but not that much. The bunch that was coming over my head and all that, they were trying to get the Pennsylvania, but they sure wrecked 2 destroyers were wiped out.
So what happened to the 2 guys you were with?
Well, then there was 2 first-class storekeepers that had their families. They lived in naval housing off the base. So they got there to the ferry. There was no place for them to go either. So they saw the tree. I guess they must have seen me, so they come up my way. And one of them says, I don't know whether it was Weed or Joyce, one of them said, this tree isn't big enough to get your rear end behind. I remember telling him, don't worry about your rear end, it'll heal up. Just get your head behind here. And that was my famous saying that morning. And so then there were 3 of us there for the ending of that particular wave of planes. And then we got back to the ferry, we could see the ferry, but the bay was all afire. The harbor was all afire from the fuel from these battleships. It leaked out and it caught fire, and the whole damn thing, instead of being water, was fire. We're a wooden ferry, so we couldn't pick them up. And then the problem they were having, we had the small boats from the battleships and the boat harbor and everything else, and those small boats were doing the best they could. But anybody you take one of the motor launches and you try to pick somebody out of the water. Well, that guy had probably dove off in the fire off the ship, and his skin was burnt to the back. You try to pick him off, or his hand or anything, and his skin would just peel off. And we lost a lot of people from burns, because that bay was afire and there was no place else for you to go except right into it. Well, then they started having some emergency classes on that. If you have to dive off into the fire, it's all right, dive off. But before you come up for a breath of air, beat the water away. That'll beat your fire away. Taught them how to take their hands and beat all that fire away.
Too late for the...
Well, because they were burning their lungs, they come up into the... So these are just little things that you remember. Then I got back to my building, which was the other side of Luke Field. As soon as I could get into the ferry slip, well, then I had the keys under my format of my truck. That was my transportation down to go ashore. So I get the keys out from under there, got in, cranked her up, and I didn't have anybody riding in the back. Well, hell, before I got out of that little lot down there by the ferryland, I had a whole stake truck full of people. They knew me, they knew the truck, all that. They lived over in the aircraft carrier side of Ford Island. And so they wanted to get home too. So I had a load of them, and I had dual wheels. This was a 5-ton stake truck, and I had dual wheels behind. And all those corners and turns and everything on Fort Island was flat. They weren't banked. And I had a governor on that thing at 45 miles an hour. And I had it wide open. And I was squealing and squeaking at every corner because they were flat. And I had a load of guys. And they were pounding on a cab. They said, come on, Stewart, push it, push it. I said, I am pushing it. There's a governor on this damn thing.
These are Hawaiian roads in 1941.
Oh, I had to go by that seaplane hangar where they were all burning and blowing up. And some of the seaplanes were outside and they were afar. I had to go right by there. And then I went right by the control tower and then I come down on the other side of the strip, which is my side.
You know, if you would please, I'm big on geography. Carl, if you just would, just remember all the streets you drove down and just real quick, keep with that what you were just saying. Go through all that, describe your drive, what streets you're on, and please, that's interesting.
Well, I couldn't tell you the names of the streets.
Well, just the areas you went, you just said just keep going with that part of your story, expand that a little bit more. Kind of excuse me for interrupting, but just describe the areas that you were right then. The names of them, please.
The area where it was right then was the hangars. I had to go right by the hangars.
Oh, the seaplane hangars.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's the ones that we use for patrol. All the 20 squadrons were over on Ford Island. The teen squadrons were over at Lahaina Roads. So they wrecked everything we had there.
So did you drive by Battleship Row too?
Not right then I didn't, because I landed right in the middle of, that's where the ferry landing was, right in the middle.
Well, let you just keep telling your story and just keep picking up right where you left off then when you guys were driving your state metro.
No,
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Carl.
Where the ferry slip was on the air station, right, was right at the stern of the California. Right at the stern. In other words, you could get a ladder put from the ferry over to the stern of the California, probably all 20 feet. And but the California was sunk. It sunk real fast. All of them that got torpedoed sunk real fast because the California, I heard somebody say that the skipper of it shifted weight and stuff around so she would sink straight down. She went straight down, and you know, she went down far enough that her main deck was all awash, but she was level. She wasn't this way or any other way. She was
She didn't roll.
Straight. And now, to give you a little detail, the Missouri is sitting at that dock, same dock. I was out there, in 94, no, 04. I was out there in 04, and the only difference, and I got lost when I got there, because they've destroyed the dispensary, it's gone, a lot of things are gone, and they built housing and stuff. So anyway, I told the Parks Department, I'm completely lost. The Missouri is sitting exactly where the California was. The only difference was she was sitting with her nose heading out to sea. Missouri is sitting with her nose in the port. So the Missouri's bow is where the stern of the California was. And the dispensary building is down, so that was my landmark up here. It was gone.